Apakah yang kerajaan harus lakukan untuk menggalakkan pertumbuhan ekonomi negara? Adakah kerajaan harus melakukan perkara-perkara mikro ataupun melihat kepada ekosistem dan merangka polisi yang terbaik untuk memastikan pertumbuhan Malaysia selari dengan pertumbuhan negara lain di serata dunia? Saya melihat kepada perkara tersebut bersama dengan Dr. Nungsari Radi, pakar ekonomi, hasil daripada perbincangan dan juga daripada pertemuan di Khazanah Mega Trends Forum 2018 bersama saya Reza Zulkafi dalam AWANI Global. So, Doctor, you mentioned earlier, and I quote, the new Malaysian government should push the boundaries and get out of this cocoon of insularity and not depend so much on the domestic-only economy, domestic consumption, but also look at how Malaysia and also the country can benefit from the global economy that's happening right now. Maybe you can explain more about that and share with us your thoughts behind that statement.
No, because I think people are comparing, sometimes when they discuss about industrial policy, they're comparing the experiences of Korea, and Japan, and then China and all those things. And I've always thought of Malaysia, and it's always true factually, that we are a small, open economy. And for the longest time, and that's the reason why we were colonized, until maybe at about the end of the 20th century, we've always been an open trading nation. I think the last 10, 15 years, we've somewhat been insular. Many sectors in our economy have domesticated. You know, even in the aviation sector that I'm heading MEFCOM now, passenger movements have grown, but a chunk of it, 80% of it, are flown by domestic airlines, you know, Asia, Mars and Malindo. That means even something like aviation, we have become domesticated, right? And net contribution of exports to growth have also come down quite a bit. So we have depended too much on domestic consumption, domestic sources of growth. But we are only like 30 million people, right? So that's too small. So one of the things that we need to break open is actually from institutions of government to education, and therefore businesses, is to, right from day one, not think of going regional and global as an incremental step, right? We should start from day one, right? Schools should think about educating Malaysians for the global economy. Schools should start educating Malaysians at least for regional labour market. Businesses should be built on seeing the ASEAN market at least as a departure point, rather than say, oh, let me do Johor first, then I'll go to Selangor, and then we'll think about Sabah, Sarawak, and then maybe we'll think about Thailand. I think that mindset that because we are small, we're in the middle of things, we should always do things right from the start as aiming for regional market.
But how do we do that when a lot of the institutions in Malaysia, say for example the education institutions and the healthcare institutions, are created for the bottom 40% and maybe some of the mid 20% towards the bottom 40%? We send the best minds overseas and not develop our education system. How do we create institutions that would be serving for all and for a global Malaysia?
That's the thing, right? I mean, let's start with schools, right? I mean, we were so engrossed, and this didn't start like 10 years ago. We started way back. We got engrossed between a particular type of domestic agenda. For example, you know, I mean, I'll say this, so it might be controversial. You know, I belong to that generation of Malaysians who was educated wholly in English. And a few years after me, maybe someone like you didn't go through what I went through, and not to say that I'm a student of language and of literature, but to relegate what was already there, some competency, capabilities, advantage of Malaysians in conversing and communicating in English, was a bad thing, right? Was a bad thing. Had we continued on that trajectory, our broadcasting industry, our media industry, say by now would have been something else, right? Not what it is, because right now the reach of the market, unless you're able to reach Indonesia, but then there are all kinds of constraints. I mean, these are the kind of things. I think it requires a certain clear thinking about what's important and what's necessary, right? Is it important to have national language? Yes. But what is necessary to regionalize, to globalize? I think command of English, for example, exposure to the geography and the history of the region, understanding China, for example, knowing a bit more about India. Geography as a subject and history as a subject that I went through, which was basically a Commonwealth sort of thing, right? So we studied the British Empire, right? But then it so happened that the British Empire was quite big.
Yeah.
So you studied from, I mean, the whole world. So you get a sense of.
So it was already an outward-looking education system.
Yeah, because it was the quote unquote, the colonial thing, because they wanted to tell, they were in Canada, they were in. So the only continent like I didn't go through for history and geography at school was actually South America, right? Because the British were never there. And they didn't like to tell things about Africa, so they didn't teach us that. But most of the rest, yes, they do. So curriculum influence mindset, I think. And I think we need to start on that. Then businesses, entrepreneurs are just products of the system, right?
Yeah.
And employees, right? So we need to sort out the pipeline first, right? So, but it needs a bit of a reasoning. I was an, there was a time when I was MP of Balik Pulau. Balik Pulau, the constituency there was quite big. The whole Bayan Lepas Free Trade Zone was part of my constituency. 15 minutes away, if you cross the windy road, you get to the other side. Yeah. It's very tranquil, rural, paddy area, right? And the dichotomy between this world and that world sitting 15 minutes apart, right? So these people need to be told, hello, it's 15 minutes away. They are talking about, increasing at that time Intel from 286, 386, 486, Pentium, right? They're doing that sort of thing that affects everything in the world. And then 15 minutes away, there's people who seems disconnected from this. I think in some ways we are experiencing that, right? Things are going around in the world.
Why did that happen, and why is it still happening right now? Why are we still disconnected from what is happening out there, and we're still discussing, really, really old policies, what happened before, and how we should solve that instead of forward-looking and more outward-looking.
So, right, people like you, people like you, young people and people in media and broadcasting need to actually push the momentum of change that we've seen, May 9, and to not to continue the momentum of change, to open up, right? See, we have this fear, right? For many years. See, when I was growing up, the fear was because there was, the communist thing, 1948, 1960. So national security. So we live in a. You cannot say that. You cannot do this because it might undermine national security. And we catch people, put them in jail for saying things, and then it's akin to having lived in a big house, but some of the rooms are forbidden, haunted. Then we move beyond that, and then we still say, oh, you can't do this, you cannot say that, you cannot behave in a certain way because there are other ghosts, So we need to exorcise all these ghosts because our house is actually quite big. I mean, just internally, our house is quite big and quite diverse. That in itself is a strength. So we need to exorcise these ghosts of fears and self-censorship and.
But after May 9th, so now is the time for us to go into all other rooms and explore.
And chase out the ghosts.
Yes, exactly. Is this a time to take risks? Is this a time for the government to also take risks and say, hey, you know what? The way we've been doing things have been really slow. Let's just leap and forward and take the risk.
Yeah, but government is this nebulous abstract thing you call government is made up of people like you and I. So they have the same sort of fears and concerns, and some of them quite genuine, right? And because so they should actually take the leap of faith, because I think what happened on May 9, for example, right? People were saying like, oh my God, what would happen if there's a change in government? Will we start whacking each other? Military government.
Also ghosts created by
those are ghosts,
yeah,
right? Fears of ghosts.
Yeah.
In the morning of May 9, Malaysians came out in drove, orderly manner, very peacefully, and what happened in the evening when the results were known? Did we go bonkers and start whacking each other? No, I think people should give credit that Malaysians are somewhat, having lived in haunted houses for so long, we are quite okay. So we should take, for example, young people, and you mentioned about a job creation, and you cannot depend on big firms, and we have to depend on people creating enterprises, and like you and I say, I don't know, right? It's an example. We get together and then we form something, then we hire 3, 4, 5 people. That sort of job creation opportunities. But it has to come with a change of mindset that says, hey, kita boleh lah, kan, we can do this. Right?
But you also have to change the environment to support that, and not have this oppressive environment where kill.
Yeah. Or punish.
Exactly. But how do we create that? Is this a fertile moment to create that?
Yes, we should actually do that. I mean, we should come to the point that says failing is okay. Failing is okay.
But in an Asian culture, is failing okay?
Yeah, failing is okay. Failing is okay because if failing is not okay, we never try. We never take risks. Failing is okay. So, from a business standpoint, the cost of failure, like thresholds for bankruptcies. For example, if we form a joint venture, we do whatever last in but had 2 of us, and then our business fail, right? We put risks, we work hard, and it still fails, which is fine. It'd be probably fine for me because I'm like almost 60, and you look like you're below 30. So you have a longer life. Okay. So the cost of us trying this and failing, at least for you, should be, you can't have like sitos, bankruptcy, boom, you're dead, right? So those are institutional, statutory, legislative reforms that need to take place, right? But beyond that, it's also the culture of starting new, right? I mean, your outfit, the media and broadcasting industry. I mean, the limited interaction that I've had, radio and TV, are populated by young people who have done fantastic stuff. I've been to places in the media in Malaysia, I've gone and then look around and, oh my God, it's all people in the 30s and 20s, right? Yeah. And that shows that actually you can, right? So we need more of that and less of this, plantation lah, oil and gas lah, the same things that we've been doing for the last how many donkey years. So that, first of all, those things are not going to take us as a country to the next level. Those things are not going to employ more people. I mean, some of them employ foreign workers, and they're not going to grow the employment. So we need entrepreneurship, risk-taking, but we need to reduce the price of failure, right? But before that, we need to open up, right? Right now, people are self-censorship, holding back, not trying.
If you look at the aviation industry, take that for example,
okay.
Right? We've seen a lot of innovations when it comes to the aviation industry. Ticket prices have gone down. There's a lot of things that have happened in the past 15 years, 10 years even. But when it comes to policies to eradicate, say, inequality, we're still quite far behind. There's not a lot of innovation that's happening in that area. When it comes to innovations in areas where we need it the most, say, for example, public transportation in general, I still have to wait 1 hour for my bus to come. I don't know if my bus is going to come at all. Yeah. Why is this? Why is the disparity between one innovation in one area and the other innovation? Because we're the same country, right?
Because the nature of things. Because aviation is by nature not domestic. I mean, especially given a country like us. So aviation and the aviation industry is always benchmarked regionally, if not globally. In fact, standards of aviation governance and technical requirements and so on are global, right? So you cannot enter into the aviation industry and not be global to begin with. So the ideas, the business models, the market creation to service is always, you know, up there, you know. So public transportation in the country, it's a different issue. It's a purely domestic thing, and it's one of the areas, in my view, since you brought it up, but specifically, it's actually one of the views that if we resolve public transportation and make it more efficient, we would add a few points of growth points to the economy just by productivity gains, right? You know, like for example, if we don't have to drive, can you imagine how much productivity gains that would have been in terms of cost and so on? But that's an area that, you know, maybe one of the problems there is we want to do things big and expensive. You know? Public transportation, you know, the MRT system is very expensive, right? Then once you do that, then the last mile or the first mile, you run out of money or something, right? Maybe from where you stay to the bus station,
of course,
to go to the station, kan? So we need a more interactive and also integrated way of looking at things. So I think planning, one of the things about this is actually the discipline of foregoing instant gratification or solving a particular problem before you have a clearer picture of the bigger thing, right? Sometimes you, like say we build MRT, right? Yeah. Which is a good thing and necessary thing. But you have to somehow think about how the city planning, zoning, and last mile, first mile connectivity needs to fit into this thing, right? Or how that thing fits into the zoning. If you do it as a need, which is true, correct, but it's not linked to where people are, where people want to go, and how they get connected to the first station and to the station they got off, then you won't have the effect that you would have. So systemic thinking and thinking at 30,000 feet, then go down to 10,000 feet, then actually go on the ground, rather than reacting to specific
issues, micro issues,
and then trying to solve problems there, because most problems are linked to other parts of other problems, right? So we need to do that, and then sometimes maybe that's why policymakers fear that, right?
There's a lot of fear.
This hantu thing that they fear.
There's still a lot of fear.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they don't. It's not easy to say, why should, look, if I'm a shareholder or something, why should I give this young gentleman the right to ask question? He might ask the wrong question. He might not be tactful. You know, he might ask sensitive questions. Might get the company into trouble. Because people have, those are real fears, but they just have to get over that and take risks and say, okay, if you messed up, you messed up. Maybe there should be consequences to that, but hey, let's get on with it, right? Let's move on. So it's a change in the mindset. It's not just government, it's people, it's about individuals, about parents, teachers, and everything.
You gave a good analogy just now, which is to look at create a good environment for the forest to survive, to grow, and not plant trees. Let's look at that and look at the new Malaysian government. This is my last question, so I'm going to go a bit all out here. There's still very little policies, even after how many months? May 9th, 4 or 5 months, and people are waiting. Especially corporate sector firms, companies. They're waiting for the next direction for the country. People are not spending, and there's no clear direction. There's no even an idea of what kind of forest are we going to create in that sense. There's still one micro planting here and there. Yeah. How soon should this new government create policy and also policies for that matter, and also set the course, the direction? Yeah. Because people are waiting, and a lot of investors, even a regular person on the street, they're waiting. Yeah. So what's happening right now?
They should do so quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because they should actually get on with it. I think they're still having some transitional issues. I think since you asked an honest question, I'll give you an honest answer. I think they should move on from this manifesto thing, which is a list of things, and perhaps synthesize the list in the manifesto into a story that actually points to a direction, right? This is the forest that we want to build. And then give some parameters to the forest, right? And then policy statement should be, we won't get involved in selecting the trees, but we will make sure that the environment is okay. There's certain protection about ownership, property rights, but we will make sure the water is okay, the air is okay. I mean, they need to move away from something which is called a manifesto, which is basically a list, right? And into a story. So you're right, people are saying, where's the story, right? Where's the direction? What kind of forest are you going to build? What are parameters and parameters in that forest story? So they need to move on towards that. And I think, I'm mindful, I think, I'm not just giving excuse for them. I think the transition, the change that took place after like 60 years. So I think they're still having some indigestion, like and then I think they need to get over that quickly, because like you're right, households with money, investors with money, not investing, households with money are holding back, investors are also holding back because they just want to find out what's the story, right? Because before I put my money down, what's the story? So you're right about that. But my thing is to end by saying they could not lose by saying, hey, chill out, give more space, let the guys try, right? Let people try. I mean, at least define the parameters, just go with it, because you don't have money to spend yourself as well.
On that note, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jadi, bagaimanakah Belanjawan 2019 dapat menggalakkan perkara ini untuk bergerak ke hadapan, melihat kepada peranan baru kerajaan untuk mewujudkan ekosistem yang lebih baik untuk negara? Saya Rizal Zulkafli, ini AWANI Global.